Ladies and gentlemen, today I would like to invite you to watch a film dedicated to the topic of enzymes and the enzyme complex product. My name is Pavel Sukarnik, and for over 20 years I have been working at the Institute of Clinical and Experimental Medicine in Prague in the Atherosclerosis Research Laboratory. Together with my co-workers, we studied the effects of certain nutrients on risk parameters such as cholesterol levels, blood pressure levels, obesity, diabetes, and so on. And at the same time, my colleagues and I have established a network of FitBee diet clinics where we are involved in educating and helping people within the framework of, for example, therapeutic nutrition or the nutrition of children and young people engaged in sports. We educate parents so that they know how to cook for young athletes. We explain why this is so important, while at the same time we cooperate with, for example, representative sport teams in terms of preparation for, among other things, the World Cup, etc. Today we are focusing on the enzyme complex. Initially, the enzyme complex was presented in a somewhat, I would say, simplistic way in the company. And we now know that the range of information on the subject is much wider. We originally only talked about the enzyme complex in the way that it will help you if you have a problem where when you drink milk, you get bloating after milk protein. You might get a stomach ache, you might get diarrhea, and so on. The same thing happens if you eat red meat or any other type of meat. Your enzymes in the digestive tract don't work so well. Then you take the enzyme complex and suddenly you don't have a problem anymore. You don't have stomach aches, you don't have bloating, etc. Today we know that the range of effects of these enzymes is much wider and more interesting, and that there is quite an intriguing synergy here too. Let me explain. When I use digestive enzymes, which in this case are bromelain and papain from pineapple and papaya, I'm actually relying on something that has been known for a long time. Ancient cultures very often use both pineapple and unripe papaya to improve the digestibility of meat. This means that these enzymes have been known for a very long time. But what we are not always aware of is that these enzymes not only break down the peptide bonds in proteins, improving their absorption and digestion, but, and this is actually a huge support from Nutrivi, because Nutrivi is based on important scientific knowledge in relation to peptide fractions from proteins. It is actually here that we also create them, because today we know that the breakdown of milk proteins produces peptide fractions with very strong antiviral and antibacterial effects. It is believed that in some cases they can have a stronger effect than some antibiotics, because they are so active and can stimulate the immune system to such an extent that it reacts very quickly without allowing a bacterial or viral infection to develop. This, of course, also applies to papain. It also breaks down the proteins from the meat incredibly well, creating these peptide fractions that have very strong antiviral and antibacterial effects and support the immune system. And in this way, all of a sudden, in addition to the original purpose, so that I don't feel bad if I go to a restaurant and eat some meat there that maybe is harder for me to digest, we are also supporting immunity in a form that we are very close to and familiar with the fish collagen peptides. So all of a sudden, we are creating in our own way our own peptide fractions by means of an enzyme complex that support our immunity, and the ability to, for example, to reduce swelling after physical exertion. That is, in connection with physical activity, injury, surgery. These enzymes are very important for reducing swelling after, for example, extraction of a wisdom tooth, the so-called eighth tooth. They are very important for reducing swelling after an injury during physical activity. By doing so, we actually create our own active substances that affect the body's functioning, reduce pain, support the immune system, and at the same time improve physical activity, allowing us to return to our favorite physical activity as we get back into shape more quickly, as well as speeding up healing in the case of the removal of an eighth tooth. It is even known that in this case there are serious consequences in social terms. The person, after the extraction of an eighth tooth, gets to be swollen, looks bad, feels bad, doesn't want to meet other people, and these enzymes shorten the healing time of the swelling by 2/3 and have a very interesting effect affect also on, for example, the person's return to work. Still, we are actually only talking about enzymes. Therefore, when we have scientific information, we know how to approach it, where to look for it, how to use it. Then, suddenly, even from one simple product, we can create a very interesting, synergistically acting supplement with a much wider, so-called multi-directional effect. And this is what is interesting. And this is what distinguishes Nutrivi, that it is based on scientific knowledge and applies it to business.